Yo, what's going on, everybody? Snods here. We're back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most important things in college football 25, and that is recruiting. This is going to be kind of a foundation video for you guys. It's going to be covering the basics, kind of a recruiting tutorial for beginners in this video. So if you're unfamiliar with how recruiting works in this game, this is the perfect video for you. If you're a little more familiar with recruiting, then you might be able to pick up a couple tips here as well. I'm not going to get into anything too advanced. Just going to cover the basics. So here we go. If you guys are new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Right above me right here is the road to 10K. Once you guys fill that bar up, we will be doing a $100 giveaway on whatever console you guys want. Here we go. We're going to select a school here. We're going to go with Ohio State, of course. I want to do Ohio State simply because we're going to get a lot of recruits, and I want this to be fast, and I want you guys to see how the process works as far as recruiting goes. If you have a smaller school, obviously it's going to be tougher for you. We'll cover some tips for you guys to get maybe some 4 stars as a 2 or 3 star school. But let's select Ohio State for now. We're going to be a head coach. Next screen here is the backstory archetype right here. So a couple things I recommend here. Now, if this was just a normal dynasty when we were at Ohio State, I probably would not select recruiter because this is already a really good school already. We're going to get a lot of recruits as it is. So recruiter, I feel like, isn't really helping us as much as maybe motivator would or tactician. But if you guys are a smaller school, 100% go for recruiter. You guys want to take any advantage you can when it comes to recruiting. That's the most important thing when you guys are a smaller school. So we're going to go recruiter here anyways, because I feel like most people do that. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and advance. Don't really care about any of this right here. And now we're going to step into the preseason phase of dynasty and recruiting. Now, a lot of people mess up right here. I used to do this all the time in the older NCAA games. I would just advance the week right here because you can't recruit. So a lot of people think you can't really do anything. That is not true at all. This is where it all starts as far as recruiting goes. But we're going to start somewhere else first, and we're going to go over to the league settings right here. You guys want to make sure, go all the way to the bottom and make sure your auto recruiting is set to off. Now, if you don't care about recruiting, go ahead and set this on. The AI will sign recruits for you, but I'll tell you this right now, you will not have the #1 recruiting class. That is impossible. If you guys want to have the best recruiting class, you want to have this off and you want to do everything manually. So next thing we want to do is go to setup recruiting board and scout prospects. So we're going to jump into this screen first, and then we're going to go somewhere else. First thing I want to do on this screen is click the right stick down. This is going to show us our team needs. I love how they did this. They had team needs in the old NCAA games, but they did not have the little box score right there showing us what our players are at that certain position. So everything that's highlighted in red is needs that we need for our team. Ohio State, they have a lot that they need on offense. So as we can see here, we go to the tab over to need. This is how many players we need. So we need 3 halfbacks for Ohio State. So that's a position we really need bad. The next tab is going to show us how many players we currently have on the team. Next tab is going to show how many recruits have signed at that particular position. And the next tab is going to show us how many players we have targeted. And then obviously you can see the classes that your players are in from freshman all the way to senior. So this is what I like to do before we do anything. I like to go to team needs, and I like to write down or type out whatever positions we need and how many we need. That way we don't have to keep jumping back to this screen because it's kind of a pain in the butt to do that. So write all this down, especially if you're Ohio State. You need basically every single position, and you need multiple in a lot of different positions. So write all this stuff down. That way you don't have to keep coming back to this screen. Now, the next thing that I like to do is look at the position that we need the most and how many we need. So halfback is a good one right here. We need 3 total. So I want to keep that in mind. I'm going to hop back to our coach tree. So you go to the coach tab right here and go to coach abilities. So this is going to bring you to your coach tree. We're going to go to the far left. The only thing that we can unlock right now is anything from recruiter. So we got to upgrade everything here first. And we got to complete some challenges too to unlock other traits. But we're going to go recruiter here. And we're going to go to the halfback section right here where it says running game. Each one of these tabs right here is for a different position. So you got wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, DBs, linebacker, running back, quarterback. You guys get the point. But we need 3 running backs. So I'm going to be recruiting a lot of running backs. So I'm going to unlock this advanced look running back right here. Costs us 5 coach points. Running backs takes less time to fully scout. This is going to save you a lot of hours when it comes to recruiting. So I'm going to go ahead and buy that. So the running backs that we scout in preseason is going to save us a lot of hours. So we did that. Now we're going to go ahead and set up our recruiting board. So here we go. Real quick, top right-hand part of the screen right here, targets. We have 35 total prospects that we can try to recruit. 35 is plenty. You're going to have guys that don't go to your school, so you can remove those guys and go for other prospects as well. Couple tips I recommend for targeting. If you have a bunch of hours for recruiting like Ohio State, yes, fill up those targets 35 out of 35. If you're a smaller school and you only have a few hundred hours to recruit, you might want to recommend doing like 10 to 15 targets. You don't have to max out those targets. If you guys have less hours, don't want to be at 35 out of 35. So hopping over to the prospect list here, this is where everything goes down. This is where we can look at all of the prospects that are in the game. The very first screen they're going to put you on is any, which is every position, and then recommended, which is the players that are recommended that you should try to recruit. This is a really good spot to start right here. It's going to show you all the players that are interested in your school, and it's going to let you know what players that are needed. So first things first, right here on the left-hand side, the green dots, all of those green dots mean are players that are interested in your school. If we go to the interest tab right here, this will tell us what spot we are in as far as interest. So we're in second place with Matthew McCormick right here. We're in first place with Robbie McFoy, first place with DeMarcus Group. You guys get the point. The next section that's very important is the pipeline influence level right here. If you're unfamiliar with how pipeline works, I'm going to kind of dumb it down a little bit for you guys because I didn't really understand it at first either. Basically how that works, every coach has a pipeline state. They have one pipeline state. So let's say my pipeline state, which I'm pretty sure it is on here, is Ohio. So any recruits that are coming out of Ohio, we have an advantage over other schools that don't have Ohio as a pipeline state. So this Robbie McFoy, Ohio is our pipeline state, so we have a better chance of signing him. Another thing to note is certain states breed better players at certain positions. So it's looking like right here, Ohio is giving out some pretty good wide receivers. So you really want to keep an eye out what positions are coming out of what states. Now, if you don't want to use the recommended screen right here, you can look at the top prospects by going to any state. So this is starting from 1 all the way down to the last prospect right here. And we can still see some that are interested in our school. So if you want to go for that number 1 guy, even though he's not interested, you do still have a chance. Your chances are small, but you can definitely still sign this guy. You also have the chance of players to lock you out. When you're locked out, that means you cannot sign that guy. He is not interested at all. The reason why we're locked out for Jamison Capps right here is our deal breaker that you see at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So his deal breaker, basically what that means, it's the most important thing to this player. So the most important thing to him is proximity to home. We have an F. I need to have a B minus to be unlocked with this guy. So I have an F, so there's no chance that I can sign this guy. Okay, so preseason, what are we going to do here? I'm going to fill up our recruiting board right here. I'm going to go ahead and get 35 out of 35 here, and I'm going to show you guys what I do next in the off season. Okay, so we're 35 out of 35 on our targets right here. Now we're going to go ahead and go to our recruiting board, and I'm going to offer every single one of my players a scholarship. Now, this is just preference. This is what I do. Some people might wait to do the scholarships, but I just send them all out right away. There's a really quick way to do this. A lot of people just click on the player and go to recruiting, and they offer the scholarship. That's too much clicking. What I like to do is click on the left stick right here, or left trigger, and then go to the Need Scholarship tab, and then you just spam A. So this is a much faster way to give out the scholarships if you want to just offer them to everyone that's on your recruiting board. Now, another thing to keep in mind here for the scholarships is you see that number go up right here. We're going to max out at 35 out of 35, right? Now, this does not mean I'm done with scholarships once I get to 35 out of 35. If there's a player that agrees to go to another school, or there's a player that you take off of your recruiting board, you can add a different one and then offer another scholarship. So keep that in mind. So right here, we have a player that's actually reaching a deal breaker, and that's for playing time. So we have a C grade for playing time, and we need a B minus. So Damian Slate is out of the question for scholarship. I offered him a scholarship, and then the deal breaker happened. So now I have one more scholarship to give out right here. So I'm going to go to the prospect list, And if I had another available target right here, I could add another player and then offer another scholarship. So just keep that in mind. 35 out of 35, that doesn't mean you can only offer out 35 scholarships the entire year. Okay, so we've offered out all of our scholarships. We've used up a little bit of our time. We have 1,080 hours left to give out right here. So remember the coach tree that we went for? I want to show you guys how that worked. So we're going to start off with this wide receiver right here. We're going to scout this guy. So I'm going to show you guys how to scout. We're going to click on the player. Go to right bumper and go over to scouting right here. So this guy is scouted at 0%. Takes us 10 hours at a time right here to go ahead and scout this guy. So I clicked it once, and you want to fill up that little binocular circle right there. So we're not even halfway done with recruiting this guy. We're at 40%. So that took me 1 click to get to 40%, 2 clicks to get to 80%, and 3 clicks. This guy's a gem. We'll cover how that works here in a moment. But it took me 3 clicks to fully scout this guy. Now, remember what I did in our coaching tree for halfbacks, right? Now, we're going to go ahead and try to scout this halfback, see how many clicks this takes. So, boom, first click. We're going to be at 60% already. So, it's going to only take me 2 clicks to fully scout this guy. So, you see what I mean there? It's going to save you some hours when you guys need to scout multiple positions, multiple players in the same position. That's what I meant to say. I'm going to go to halfback, and we're going to go ahead and scout all of these guys. And now we're going to explain what the gem and bust feature is for this game. So that first guy that you saw, the green gem, that guy was a gem. Here he is right here. He is a 5-star recruit. Now, he's going to be really good. A good example, if this guy was a 4-star recruit, right, and he came up as a gem, he can actually really be a 5-star guy. If you guys are a smaller school and you find some gems out there, you could really find a guy that's like a 2 or 3-star, and he might really be a 4-star as far as his attributes goes. So keep that in mind. Always check the attributes too. You're not going to get the full overall of the player like we would in the older NCAA games. So you want to make sure you're looking at the specific attributes for this player, because there might be an attribute that you don't like and you don't actually want this guy. If you guys want a scrambling quarterback and he has like 75 speed, you might want to pass and go to a different quarterback, because that might be the wrong one for you. Now, another thing that we're going to uncover here in the scouting process is obviously attributes. As we get another bust right there, we can look at all of his attributes. We can also get a look at the player's abilities, not all of them, but maybe some of them, and his mentals. Also at the bottom right-hand part of the screen right here, it says development trait. This is something that you can get by purchasing the Mind Reader Ability and Strategist archetype. So this will give you a grade right here on how that player is going to progress through his college football career. So that's all I'm going to do. I gave out my scholarships in preseason. We're going to scout as many people as possible. If there's some busts out there that we don't really want, we're going to take them off the recruiting board and try to fill that with a different player. That's another big thing to keep in mind. When there's players out there that are signing to other schools, players that aren't interested in your school anymore, you want to make sure that you're removing those players out of your targets. That way you can replace them with a different one. A lot of people think that if players sign with another school, they will automatically be removed from your targets. They don't. So you have to manually do that, as we find a gem right there. That's huge. So this is a 4-star guy right here that could potentially be a 5-star player. Now, another thing that I want you guys to keep in mind right here, now it shows right here that this guy is a bust. Just because he's a bust, that does not mean you shouldn't sign him. If you guys are a smaller school and you get a bust, right? You go to attributes. This guy still has 97 speed with 93 acceleration. So this guy could still be a really solid option for your team. So if you see the bust, don't immediately remove him from your targets. Make sure you're looking at the attributes. If it fits your scheme, still go for the guy. All right, so we're done with preseason. I have scouted every single guy on my recruiting board. Now, if you're smaller schools, you're not going to be able to do that, right? Your smaller schools, you're going to have less hours to scout. So you're going to make sure that you're scouting the guys that you really are interested in getting. If you want to get a quarterback really bad, I recommend doing quarterbacks. Same thing for different positions. Okay, so we're done with preseason. See how much work that was that we could have missed just by hitting advance? It's very, very important that you don't miss the preseason stages of recruiting. Okay, so we have advanced. Now we're going to get the weekly advanced summary right here. This is a very important screen. It's going to let us know where we're at with certain players. Where did we move as far as their interests? Where are they at in the recruiting process? So we've got 2 players right here that we moved up to first on the interest for Robbie McFoy, and we moved up to second for Cortland Bouchard. So also for the news, Robbie has reached his top 8 schools, so he's narrowed it down to 8 schools. And same thing with old Cortland here. So here we go. We got a bye week. All we're going to be doing right here is recruiting. This is what we're going to be doing every single week. Now, I'm not going to go through every single week right here. I'm going to give you guys an idea of what we do every single week because it's the same thing, right? We're going to keep this simple. Again, start off with the coach abilities. If you have coach points to spend, it'll make sure that you're unlocking all of this stuff. We're going to unlock everything right here. Start at the positions that you need. Advanced look is huge. It's going to save you a lot of hours. So I recommend getting that in every single position. That way it doesn't take you as long to scout players. Now that's going to carry over to next season as well. So starting out in preseason, it's going to be much easier to go ahead and scout every single player on your roster or your recruiting board. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start at looking at the top schools. So each player right here, the first screen you're going to see is the meter and where you stand. So right here, we're third on this guy's list. We're first right here. You want to really pay attention to the bars right here. So right here, it's a pretty tight race between Clemson, Penn State, and Ohio State. We still have a really good chance of signing this guy. We might be third, but we're pretty close to first on this guy. Let's go ahead and look at a different scenario here. I couldn't really find a really good one right here, but this is a good example right here. If we look at the influence bar right here, all of the influence bars are pretty low. So this guy's very open to where he's going to go. So Iowa right here, they might be at 7. They still have a pretty high chance of signing this guy as long as he has a good visit and they recruit him the right way. If they send the house, they have a pretty good chance. Whereas we go here, Ohio State's at number 1 and the bar is almost completely full. Kentucky is going to have a pretty hard time at beating us in this JD Cummins. So watching the bar is very, very important here. So here we go. Let's go ahead and try to get Matthew McCormick here. I'll show you guys what I do for recruiting. Now we're going to look at where we're at right here. We're third, right? What's the importance right here? Do we really want this guy? Look at the scouting. He's decent, 90 speed. He's not the greatest in the world though. So I'm going to go to add action here. This is where our hours come in. We have 1,000 hours to give out right here. So if we want to send the house, we can get 50 points. That's going to give us a really good maximum influence as far as getting this guy. If we go to another player like Anton Edmonds right here, we have a pretty solid advantage over all of the other schools. So right here, you probably don't want to send the house, right? Because we already have a pretty good chance of getting this guy. So I'm just going to accumulate 15 to this guy. We're not going to go too crazy. Whereas Chris Lesnar right here, we are third. And let's say that I really want this guy. I'm going to go ahead and send the house to this guy. We're going to give everything that we got. The maximum amount of hours that we can give towards a player is 50. So at this point, it's all preference. You're going to need to find the players that you want. Look at the attributes. Make sure you're still scouting throughout the year. Don't just scout in preseason and be done with it. Make sure you're trying to scout everyone that you need here. Accumulate your hours to the players that you really want. That's what we're going to do here every single week. You want to make sure that you're using all of your hours. Try to spend your hours as wisely as possible. You want to try to get as many players as possible if you're a bigger school. This is just preference for me. If you guys are a smaller school, I recommend going all in on those bigger players that can really turn around your program. That's just me. You guys might be different. That's just how I am with smaller programs. I recommend being very, very aggressive, being a lower star team, being a higher star team. I think you just need to bring in as many people as possible. So we're going to go ahead and accumulate our points, and then we're going to go ahead and advance. All right, so we did a lot of recruiting last week. So the weekly advanced summary is going to be a lot longer than what we had last week. So we want to take a look at this, see what kind of movement happened here. See what players in their top 8 schools. Make sure you keep an eye on the players that you really, really want. So this is obviously a very important screen. Make sure you're always looking at this. All right, so we're jumping back into recruiting. What happened? Obviously, we didn't sign anybody. That will let you know if you sign anybody very fast. But you can see right here, we're still at 0 out of 1,000. So nothing changed right here. Now, I was pretty aggressive here. I went 50 for like everyone. I don't recommend doing that. I did that simply just because of the video. I wanted to accumulate my points as fast as possible here. So that's why that says 50 out of 50. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out here, if we go to the recruiting section, a lot of people are asking about the pitch section right here. It It's not available right away. It won't be available until the player has narrowed down his top 5 schools. Once you get down to the top 5 schools, this is when you're competing with other schools, and you can try to soft sell the guy, hard sell the guy, or sway him. Swaying the player basically means you're trying to sway what's more important right here. So if we go back here and we look at the player, let's say it's not showing us what his grades are yet, but it will. Let's say he really does not care about brand exposure at all, right? And we have an A+ brand exposure, and you want to sway him on that brand exposure. Try to make him actually care about the brand exposure. That's where you can do that. All right, so we simmed a week. Look at the top right-hand corner. We have 20 points to spend on our team right here for our coach. So we're going to go to the recruiting section right here, and we're going to upgrade some of this stuff. I recommend getting 1 at each position right here. That way it takes less time to recruit every single player. This won't take you long at all. We only need 3 more spots here at kicker, offensive line, wide receiver, running back, and quarterback. It's going to take us less time to scout those players. I don't know why I picked kicker or punter. I recommend doing DBs before you do kicker and punter. But here you go. As you can see, we're still at 0 out of 1,000. That is good. We want to make sure we're using all of our hours. You can kind of see how it's kind of like a set and go type of thing. We don't have to spend too much time in this screen, which is good. So we can spend more time playing on the football field. But while you're in here, when you're at 0 out of 1,000, I do recommend going down over here to the ready to visit section right here. As you can see right here, we got a list of players that are ready to visit. You want to try to knock these out. You're going to get a huge advantage when you guys get a visit to your school and you handle it the right way. I'm going to take some time off right here. I'm going to take some time off for Nigel Garrison because I want to show you guys how the visit process works. So right here, Robbie McFoy, he's ready for a visit, right? It cost us 40 hours to do a visit, right? So 40 points right here. Very important on which team you select against. In older games, it didn't really matter as much. If I schedule against Marshall, right, for week 4, you can see there's only 1 green arrow right here. So there is potential we can lose a lot on this guy if we lose to Marshall. But if we win, we don't get too much because we're supposed to win these games. Whereas if I schedule it against Michigan, we're going to get more points beating a Michigan team that's way better than Marshall. But we still lose just as much if we lose. So you really want to be careful on that. You want to be confident that you're winning. I think the best way to go right here is to try to find one that has like 2 arrows. We don't have one here, unfortunately. But if you want to be aggressive right here, you can go ahead and schedule it against Michigan. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. We're going to schedule them against Michigan, right? Next, now we're going to select what our activity is going to be during this visit. So we want to look here. Coach stability is very important to this guy. Also, proximity to home is very important as well. We got an A+ at proximity to home. So we're going to go ahead and pick that. That's going to be our activity that we do here. And that's going to be a family visit. And that's going to give us some good points. So we'll go ahead and select that. Now, if there is another player that we want to go ahead and schedule a visit for, we got another scheduled visit right here for Darren Merchant. We're going to go ahead and schedule that for 40 hours. Now, this is huge as well. If we go to week 14 for Michigan, we see right here we got a complimentary visit for that wide receiver that we just scheduled. If you guys are pairing positions together like wide receiver and quarterback, this could be a good opportunity to kind of combo that up a little bit and make this visit go even better. So you want to pair these guys up, but again, if you lose, it could go bad. So I'm going to take the risk here, and we're going to go to week 14 and schedule this visit. Now, as you can see right here, we don't know what's important to this guy, so we might hold off on scheduling this guy's visit. We don't want to just guess on what's important to this guy because we could schedule for A+ program tradition. He might not even care about that at all. So, but that's how visiting works. Visiting is way more complex than what it used to be in the NCAA games. Now, as you can see here, we have a couple players that have locked us out. So we need to maintain our recruiting board right here and remove the guys here that are locking us out. Now we can go back to the recruiting board or prospect list and add some players that we might want to get. So that's the basics right there. That's pretty much what we're going to be doing all year long. We're going to be managing our hours all season long. Keep an eye on every single one of these players. Recruiting is the biggest part of college football. So you're going to be spending a lot of time on the recruiting board here. I think this is one of the most fun parts about this game, but I think I covered most of the basics right there. I'm going to keep simming and see if I catch any other things that we can go over, maybe some off-season stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and simulate through the season and see if there's other things that we need to cover. Okay, so here we are. We're in the off-season, transfer portal and off-season recruiting. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into transfer portal. Transfer portal is, we know how that works. It's going from one other school to your school. This basically works the same way as recruiting. So if there's players out here that we weren't able to recruit during the season, you might be able to find a particular player in the transfer portal and you can go for them. But we're talking about recruiting here. We're going to go to the recruiting board. Now, as far as the hours go, we have a little bit more hours than what we had during the season. So now we have 1,500 instead of 1,000. And this is going to work pretty similar to what it was in the normal season. Now you can still schedule visits. You can still accumulate and influence players. You can still do pitches. So your soft sell is going to be a lower penalty for being wrong. And then the hard sell is going to be a bigger penalty if you are wrong. Now the hard sell costs 40, soft sell only costs 20, and then 30 for swaying your recruits. Now our recruiting board is a little messed up right now because we just kind of simmed through all of it, but it's going to look similar right here. You're going to accumulate your points to the players that you want, still with the maximum amount being 50 for each player. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Those are all of the basics for recruiting. I hope this video kind of gave you guys a little bit of a better idea how recruiting works in this game. I wanted to create kind of a foundation and you guys kind of expand on that a little bit. As the year goes on, we're obviously still learning a lot about the recruiting process. We'll come up with methods and stuff like that. I'm sure that's going to help us a lot in the recruiting process. But right now, it's just the basics video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. That's going to be it from me, boys. I'm out of here. Peace.